So now let's start to look at the first set of the Indian rhythm pack for SYNKD. Now so far we've used the syllables takadimi and takita. Now the syllables that we're going to use for these reduction exercises are ta di ge na tum, ta di ge na tum. Now you don't need to recite those syllables, they're there for a guide. Obviously, you know, if you're going to be looking at traditional Carnatic South Indian music, then you need to get into the syllables in depth, and I personally find them very useful as a learning exercise. Just to clap time cycles and recite syllables is a really useful way to really properly understand different structures of rhythmic work. But we're going to be using the words ta di ge na tum, and we're going to be reducing the length. So first of all, we'll start out with each syllable equaling 3/16 long. Ta di ge ta tum. So we've got the time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Takita, 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 takita. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Ta di ge ta tum. And then the syllables will be 2 notes long. Ta di ge ta tum. And then 16th notes. Ta di ge ta tum. So you can voice the syllables. You can come up with a sticking for them. You could maybe play the quarter notes with the hi-hat, left foot, and a different ostinato for the bass drum, or just the feet going right, left, in quarter notes, whatever you kind of feel. But there's lots of ways that you can work out how to orchestrate this material on drum set or percussion, or you know, with melodies on piano or other melodic instruments. So first example starts from 3 per note, then 2 per note, and then we're into the 16ths. And then what happens for all of these examples in the first 2 sets I use a device which is called a T-high, or an arudi in South India, T-high in North India. T-high is basically a phrase that repeats 3 times to conclude a piece of rhythm work. So that's the device that we're using. Also, I will mention as well that this use of the words ta di ge na tum being reduced in the way that we're doing normally happens in Carnatic rhythm in the second part of a composition called Korvoy, which is an elaborate rhythmic composition that I'm not going to go into detail now, but these syllables are often manipulated in many different ways in that type of formal rhythmic structure. So let's look at our first example, starting with 3 syllables per note. Ta di ge ta dum, ta di ge ta dum, ta di ge ta dum, ta di ge ta dum da, ta di ge ta dum da, ta di ge ta dum da. So one interesting note about that example, and I'm going to talk about this at the end of the whole video, at the end of this video, in that traditionally, because we've started with ta di ge ta tom happens once, and then ta di ge ta tom happens twice. Now, what you would then normally have in a traditional setting is ta di ge ta tom, ta di ge ta tom, ta di ge ta tom would happen 3 times. Now, because this is the first exercise in what we're doing, I wanted it to be short, and so I've kind of just made a short exercise out of it rather than a traditional composition. But at the end I'll explain other ways that could be resolved to be more formal within a traditional structure. So the next example, we're starting out with each syllable equaling 4 notes, then 3 notes, then 2 notes, and then into the T-high portion. Ta di ge ta dum, ta di ge ta dum, ta di ge ta dum, ta di ge ta dum da, ta di ge ta dum da, ta di ge ta dum da. For the next example, we're going to start with each syllable equaling 5 notes. then 4 notes, then 3 notes, then 2 notes, and then into the T high portion.
Da, di, ge, da, dum, 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 da.
So we're getting the idea now. We know that the next ones are going to start with 6 notes. Each syllable equaling 6 notes, then 5 notes, then 4 notes, then 3 notes, 2 notes, and then into the T high portion.
Da, di, ge, da, dum, 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 da, da, di, ge, da, dum, da, di, ge, da, dum, da, di, ge, da, dum, da, da, di, ge, da, dum, da, di, ge, da, dum, da, di, ge, da, dum, da.
And the next one is going to start with 7 notes per syllable, then 6 notes per syllable, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then into the T high portion.
Da, di, ge, da, dum, 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 da.
And now we're going to start with 8 notes per syllable, then 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and into the T high portion.
Da, di, ge, da, dum, 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 da.
And then 9 notes per syllable, 8 notes, 7 notes, 6 notes, 5 notes, 4 notes, 3 notes, 2 notes, and then the T high portion.
Da, di, ge, da, dum, 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 da.
And finally, we're going to start with each syllable equaling 10 sixteenths in length, then 9, then 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then the T high portion.
Da, di, ge, da, dum, 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 da, dum, da, di, ge, da, dum, da, di, ge, da, dum, da, dum, da, di, ge, da, dum, da, di, ge, da, dum, da, di, ge, da, dum, da.
So we can see that it all poses a lot of different rhythmic challenges. Even the simple ones, like if you had 4, each syllable equal to a quarter note, for example, ta, di, ge, da, dum. Obviously, that's really easy if it's on a downbeat or on the quarter notes. But if it started off somewhere, let's say for example it started on the fourth quarter note, fourth 16th note of a quarter note, da, dee, get, da, dum. Then it's a completely different rhythmic thing. So even though some of these divisions are seemingly easy if you look at them on their own in isolation, once they get within the context of the composition, they can be a little bit more of a challenge, especially when you've started to orchestrate it and play it in different ways around the drum set. So finally, you'll remember that I talked about the composition at the beginning that started with 3 notes per syllable, and then we have the short little abbreviated T high at the end. And I mentioned that really, traditionally speaking, that should have been 3 groups of 5, because we'd had 1 of the 3 per note, 2 of the 2 per note, and then really it should be traditionally. But as I said, I wanted to make a shorter example. Now, if you wanted to make that a full composition that would be more formal, then you could adjust it in this way. The time cycle I'm going to use is Adi-Tala, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as the formal clapping pattern. 5, 6, 7, 8. Da, di, get, da, dum. 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 Da. Da, di, get, da, dum. Da, di, get, da, dum. Da, di, get, da, dum. Da. Da, di, get, da, dum. Da, di, get, da, dum. Da, di, get, da, dum. Da. So there we can see that we've extended the end quite extensively, but it fits into a more formal, traditional resolution.